Good afternoon. My name is Audrey Carlson. I am the proud facilitator of the Hartford Happiness Club. And today we have a dynamic duo here this afternoon that will present on humor and joy. That being said, I'd like to introduce Dr. Bernie SIEGEL to my side here. He is a surgeon, an author, a presenter, a father of 5, and a child of God. To my right, we have Dr. Joyce Saltman. She is a professor of special ed. She is a humorist. She is a presenter. She is absolutely wonderful to have with us today. A mother of 2 brilliant children who are married to 2 brilliant partners. So that being said, I'm going to let them decide who is going to go first. So thank you.
I'm going to let ladies go first, but first I'm going to talk. Because I'm just thinking, this comes from Subway franchise that one of our sons ran, and when they renovated it, I brought it home. Why I'm mentioning it has to do with humor, because I loved working at Subway, and because it was like being a surgeon. People came in, I would ask them how I could help them. I had a knife in my hand to cut things up. But I would say this, before I make you a sandwich, you have to answer a question. What's your question? How would you introduce yourself to God? What's the best day of your life? And what was interesting was, if a woman said, oh, when I gave birth to my son, another customer would yell, you're wrong. And they'd look, what do you mean I'm wrong? Today's the best day of your life. And we got into therapy over my questions and the sandwiches. So I loved working there because I felt I'm being a doctor here behind the counter and I had power over people. You want a sandwich? You answer a question. And of course, it wasn't good for business because our son said, people don't leave and they crowd the store because they're sitting there talking. So you got to stop doing that. So I cut back on it. What got you?
Well, first, I want to tell people how it happens that I got to know you, because the first time I got to hear you was long before you became the famous person on the book cover on the New York Times bestseller list. You were just Dr. Bernie SIEGEL, everybody called you Bernie, and you were speaking. And you asked the audience of 100 and some odd people, how many of you want to live to be 100? And only 3 of us raised our hands. And I was very struck by that. Soon thereafter, in 1983, I was asked to give a lecture on healing, the healing power of laughter by the Cheshire Library. And once that happened, I started getting, people calling me to speak on this. And I got to speak at the Bushnell Theater in Hartford. And this is the first ticket. And it says on it, Bushnell Memorial Hall, Hospice Council of Connecticut, Bernie SIEGEL, Joyce Saltman. And this was framed, and on the back, my closest friend wrote, because a star should have her first real ticket framed, love her. And this is from 1988, June of 88. And that was the first time that Bernie and I had worked together for the very first time. It was fabulous.
But you see, we were working together. But I can show you a bunch of magazines where it says the controversial Dr. Bernie SIEGEL.
Oh, yes. Right.
And even the talk shows I'd get on, I thought, oh, good, they're inviting me. But when I got there were other people there to argue with me, and doctors as well. You're crazy. What are you talking about? What difference does it make if you're happy, or sad? Or it was just nuts.
Right.
It wore me out. But as I say, you begin to realize, oh, yeah, I was told you're blaming patients. Because somebody gets sick, I'd say, what's going on in your life? Say, oh, you're blaming your patients. What are you talking about? Well, you're saying what's happening in your life. It's their fault. But literally, Monday morning, we have more heart attacks, strokes, suicides, and illnesses. If people loved their lives, Monday would not be, a threat to us. So I really woke up, and just to make it scientific, a student down at the University of South Florida said he wants to do a study on actors to see if it makes a difference their immune function, stress hormone levels, depending on humor or, depression. And his professor thinks it's nuts. What difference will it make in an actor? But I got in touch and I said, yes, let's do it. So they did it. And of course, in the comedy, both of the people had their immune function improve and their stress hormone levels go down. The tragedy was the man murdered her husband, and they run into each other. And of course, in both of them, immune function went down, stress hormone levels went up. And again, whether it's, you know, the coronavirus or cancer or anything else, it's important for you to look at, why am I sick now? What's going on now? And I learned one other thing, that if I got patients to laugh, they couldn't be afraid. The pain went away. I got to tell you this story, and then, you know, because in the operating room, I'd play music and I'd act crazy. And it distracted people. So, I mean, I knew the benefit of that. But my mother-in-law, in her 80s, developed a hernia helping her paralyzed husband, you know, lifting him in bed, moving him. And she was an opera singer and the most proper lady you ever want to meet. And I thought, how can I embarrass her so she will have no pain or problem after surgery? And literally, remember, she's in her 80s. At the end of the operation, when we're about to take her to the recovery room, I said to her, now don't forget what I told you, no sex for 6 weeks after surgery. They take her, I go get dressed. I come to the recovery room, I'm looking around. Where's my mother-in-law? She came out, refused pain medication, asked for her clothes, and went home.
To have sex.
So it worked beautifully. Or imagine lying on the operating table and you hear Frank Sinatra, all of me, why not take all of me? That and Amazing Grace. Because people would say, is everything all right? Why are you playing that? You know, yeah. And then the operating room, everybody burst out laughing, but they all realized, because I was initially called an explosion hazard, bringing a tape recorder into a room with anesthesia, gases that are explosive. But within 2 weeks, everybody was enjoying it and bringing in their own tape recorders to play music. And last but not least, when we played children's music...
We know that's not true, Bernie.
No, but I'm going to stop. But children's music, everybody regressed and started acting childlike. Because when you listen to these nursery rhymes and other things, I did a lot of children's surgery, everybody in the room would become like a child.
Well, we have laughter yoga class every Wednesday morning, and we're singing all these funny songs. And there's one activity that just leads us to say, why? Because we love you. And then the entire group of people my age and older are singing the Mickey Mouse song from the Mickey Mouse Club. And everybody is laughing. It is really a joy.
But as I say, I learned that humor is always appropriate. Nobody ever gets mad at you for making them laugh.
Right. Which, by the way, another thing you might like to know is nobody can be depressed while they're eating an ice cream cone. For that same reason, it brings you back to when you were a kid, and there is something so rejuvenating about licking an ice cream cone.
As I say, it's your chemistry. It literally is changing your body.
Right.
You know, and why, if you're drawing the blood, you'd see what was happening in that person. And
well, I'd rather not be drawing the blood while I'm eating an ice cream cone, but you know, nonetheless.
And doctors aren't trained to talk to people either. You know, it would be interesting if every medical school had a humorist or a comedian come in and talk to the students about how to talk to patients.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, here I go again, because I was a police surgeon in New Haven. Phone rings in the office. It's Jimmy Jackson. Hi, Jimmy. He was a policeman and former football player. What is it? I'm committing suicide. I thought, why is he calling me if he's going to commit suicide? He wants somebody to say, I love you, you know, to make it meaningful before he commits. What does SIEGEL say? Jimmy, yes. If you commit suicide, I'll never talk to you again. And I hung up the phone.
Right.
Because I thought, you know, what's the point of saying, I love you, you're so sweet, don't do it. That's what he's looking for. 15 minutes later, he came crashing into the office. And I literally thought he was going to pick me up, throw me out the window of the building. Because he was screaming, you insensitive, uncaring idiot. I have a gun in my mouth, I'm going to kill myself, and you say that stupid thing. I said, did you notice something? What? You're not dead. And then he broke out in a big smile like, you smart ass. Yes.
that's good.
We became lifetime friends.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So thank you, Joyce and Dr. Bernie, for that. But I do have a question, and I'm going to ask Joyce first. What simple ways would you offer our viewers ways to bring joy and humor into their lives?
Every morning when I first get up in the morning, and it used to be at 6 in the morning. Now I'm getting up earlier, but I have a friend with me, so I'm not doing that. But I'm calling my very good friend Connie, who leads our laughter yoga group. And I call her up and I say, good morning, sunshine. And she says, good morning, wonderful, creative person. And that's how we start the day. We talk about what we're going to do over the day. And I was reminded of somebody who recently said at AATH, she said, she starts her day, this is an elderly woman. She said she starts her day every day thinking of 5 things she will be grateful for. Instead of, people talk about a gratitude journal at the end of the day, what great things happened. She starts off by thinking the great things that she is thankful for when she gets up in the morning. And I love that. I send out a happy gram every day, and everybody says, yeah, okay, I know you're going there. I know you're doing this. That's great. Don't you get bored having to find so many fabulous things to do? And the answer is no. I also am very, very committed to avoiding energy suckers. So the people who are going to fill your day with, oh, this hurts and that hurts and this is so awful and that one died and this one is sick, I am very sorry, and I send them condolence cards or I try to send them little happy messages, but I do not spend time on the phone with energy suckers or in person with energy suckers. And I think that's we have to surround ourselves with positive people. And that's why having happiness clubs and having people out there who are trying to bring joy and positive things to everybody's life, regardless of what else is going. The first thing that happened when the COVID pandemic started, I was in Florida and I got canceled 40 speaking engagements. And I live to be with people. I am a people person. I like to be with people. I like to be at meetings. I like to be doing good things. And everything dropped dead. The clubhouse was closed. Friends wouldn't go out. There was one lady hadn't been out of her house in 73 days. Talk about what awful stuff is happening to her immune system because she's not exercising it in any way other than just being stuck in a house. And 40 speaking engagements were canceled. So I've been doing a whole lot of Zooms, and I've been really trying to focus on the funny stuff in the Zooms. And I will say the best joke I heard yesterday was that because of political correctness, NBC is not going to show The Wizard of Oz because they don't want to offend people with no brains. And I think we see a lot of those people out there because they refuse to wear masks. I don't know what they are thinking. Wearing a mask is such a very simple thing. So we have to look for the humor in things, and we need to pass it on to the people we love.
Thank you, Joyce. That was really funny because there are a lot of people that don't have brains because we're all out there and we see this. Yes. So that was hilarious. Thank you. And so, Bernie, same question. What simple ways would you recommend people to tap into the humor and the joy in their life?
Drugs and alcohol. I mean, I know I'm mortal. I'm here for a limited amount of time. So why waste my lifetime? That's the way I look at it. I'd rather be happy, than unhappy. Again, it's keep the child in you alive. I've had pets for as long as I can remember. In a past life, I killed animals. I was a knight with a sword. And from the time I was a little kid, I kept telling my folks, I want a dog, I want a dog. And they didn't. But I've always wanted pets and had them in the house. And they teach you. So I walk our dog now in the morning with nature, with God. And that's when you connect and find the peace and the harmony. And one therapist said, he tells all his clients to say, thank you for everything, I have no complaint whatsoever. Now, you'd say the truth is, what are you talking about? We all have complaints. Yeah, but you say, thank you for everything, I have no complaint whatsoever, regularly, and you begin to feel better and become grateful for life. So I thank God, for life. And it makes me feel better. And being out in nature.
I want to add something to what Bernie just said. because my dad used to say the same thing. He was a very positive person, and he said the reason why he lived till 92 and a half, the reason why he never had any serious problems, and my mom lived till 93, but my dad said he doesn't complain, so maybe God forgot to pick him up. And I just love that concept. If you don't bother him, he won't bother us. My mother used to say, people would ask my mom, who was this sharp till the minute she died, people would say to my mother, aren't you afraid of dying? And my mother would always say, no, why would I be afraid of dying? Before we come down, it is written, when we're coming down and when we're going back up. And no matter what we do, nothing will change that. She said, I want to die in my sleep. I don't want to miss dinner. She was 93 years old. She did volunteer work for Hadassah. My sister and brother came up from Long Island to take her out to lunch. She went to dinner and a concert that night and said to one of her friends in the elevator, I don't feel that great. When I went to get her in the morning, because I was supposed to pick her up for breakfast, I went to get her in the morning. She was lying dead in her bed, fast asleep, nothing. That was the way she wanted to go. I would like to go exactly the same way, but I would like to maybe go during sex. I think that would be something we haven't mentioned. Laughter helps you live longer, helps enhance your immune system, as does sex. And I do believe eating chocolate. And if you have a kind of, I love peanut butter cups, not Reese's, the Aldi's has the best peanut butter cups. And if you can have something like that, it's protein. That's a very helpful way to start your day with a little protein and a lot of sugar. You feel good, you feel awake, and everybody's happy to share it with you.
Now you got me so discombobulated, I can't even think about what I'm thinking about. But yeah, you shouldn't have brought up sex. But,
I'm sorry, Bernie, really.
no, because I was going to share a story and listening, I can't recall now. But again, it's sharing with people, the end is inevitable. And we've had the same experience in my family. My wife died a couple of years ago in her sleep. It was a shock for me. I went to wake her up. She looked so peaceful. Her father, who was in his 90s, he said, I'm not having dinner, I'm not taking my pills. He went to sleep. My father said to my mother, I need to get out of here. She said, help him out of bed. I said, Ma, he's talking about his body.
Wow.
So we had an enormous party. Because I said to him, when do you want to die? I said, I'll die Sunday. We had a great big party. He died laughing. See, again, no coincidence. The day of his funeral, I'm walking outside. I don't mean the funeral, the day he was going to die. I mean, when he told us.
Right.
So I was, going to go to the hospital. But I took a walk that morning, and a voice said to me, how did your parents meet? And I hear voices all the time. I said, I don't know. Then ask your mother when you get to the hospital. I walk in, and I was upset, because rather than say, I love you, I'm sorry, and hugging, what came out of my mouth was, how did you two meet? My mother said, I was on vacation on the beach in Far Rockaway, sitting with girls I didn't know. I learned later they had a horrible reputation. Coming down the beach was a bunch of boys. Your father was one of them. They tossed coins to see who would get the other girls. And your father lost and got me.
Perfect.
The second date, he said, we'll take you out for a row in Central Park. My mother said, I'm getting in the boat, and the man yelled, you have to pay first. My father let go of me in the boat, and I fell in the lake. By the third date, I was saying, what the hell's wrong with you? You kept going out with him, But I watched my father, who was in a coma, and people hear you even in a coma or under anesthesia, the big grin on his face. He looked so healthy. I thought, he's going to open his eyes and say, I'm not dying today, this is fun. And all these people have come. But when the last person who was supposed to come arrived, he took his last breath. And what was beautiful was the big smile on his face. The kids, there were great-grandchildren in the room. They were in, he's going to die. I mean, they were really afraid. At the end of the day, it was like, that's what dying is like.
Yeah,
I don't have to be afraid anymore. All these kids, it was a gift to them to see that beautiful moment.
Definitely.
And I think, again, that, the humor is always appropriate, and nobody ever says, "You made me laugh." Yeah,
In a bad
because
way.
how much goodness they feel. And also, it helps you be an individual, because I think about the hospital. One of the leading causes of death is medical errors, because they walk in thinking of a room number or a disease and give you a treatment that's for the person in the next room. So, but if you're a character, they don't forget you in the hospital. And I always remember one kid, he had a water gun, and over his bed it said, "Intern shot on sight," because people would come in, and if he didn't like what they were doing, he'd squirt them. And the nurses, really were good. They didn't take it away from him. But he became that kid, not the disease. And I'd say to people, remember that. Everybody remembers you if you get them to smile and laugh. Yeah, even at all the things I do. You pull up to a toll. "How can I help you?" The toll taker looks at me. "Oh, get out of your car, collect the tolls, let me go home." That's what she said to me. In a minute, the two of us were best friends, making each other laugh, acting crazy. And that's the part I remember.
I used to give cookies to the toll takers. Well, we have on my bio, I always have at the end of the bio, it says, "I really would like to die laughing, but not too soon."
Yeah.
And I will go to my dying breath. I would like to die laughing, but I don't hope it's in the near future.
So Joyce, if we were to wrap this afternoon up for our viewers, what would you leave them with in terms of bringing joy and humor into their lives and their day?
Well, I like the concept of don't postpone joy. The time to move to the house that you want on the water is now. The time to call up a friend that you can laugh with is now. Don't postpone joy. Every day there should be elements of things that make you happy and laughing.
Thank you. And Bernie, same question.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of people with AIDS, cancer, other things, one put on her refrigerator, "When you live in your heart, magic happens." And she didn't die. But that's something I learned, and how humor played a role in it. People who were told you'll be dead in a few months stopped treatment and did what they, wanted to do. And these are people, I'm not making this up, multimillionaire, buy a house on the ocean in Miami. I'll listen to your meditation tapes. Buy a dog and put in a backyard wildlife habitat. Moving to Colorado, I want to die in the mountains, it's beautiful here. Closing my law office and going to play my violin, because I never wanted to be a lawyer. My parents wanted me to be a lawyer. The lawyer got a job in an orchestra, not dying. A year later, I hadn't been asked to come to the funeral, which I told the family of the guy who moved to Colorado. So I called up to say, "Why didn't you pay attention to what I asked of you?" Guess who answers the phone? The guy I thought was dead. He said, "Yeah, it's so beautiful here, I forgot to die." The woman who got a dog in backyard wildlife habitat laughed more. This is all in the letter for me. But the end of her letter said, "And I didn't die, and I'm so busy I'm killing myself. Help, where do I go from here?" I told her, "Take a nap." But every one of them, and my landscaper locally here in Orange, Connecticut, I said, "You need more treatment." "No, it's springtime. Gonna go home, make the world beautiful, so when I die, I leave a beautiful world." 6 years later, the nurse handed me his chart. I said, "He's dead. He never came back to the office." "Open the door." So I opened the door, and there sits John. "I have a hernia from lifting boulders in my landscape business." So we fixed that. But those are the things I learned. It's when you live in your heart, magic happens. He who seeks to save his life will lose it. Because when you let somebody impose a life on you, especially parents, "I want you to be a lawyer" kind of thing, you lose your life. And he who's willing to lose his life, the untrue self, saves his life. So that's what you need to do. Bring forth what's within you. not what others impose on you. And the humor is a part of it. You begin to enjoy living. Your life gets a love message. This is not just laughter, but loving yourself. That's why I like saying, go to L. Go to L? Yeah, love and laughter. Okay? So here's the warning signs for people to know if you have enough humor in your life. Your husband calls and says he'd like to have dinner out tonight, and you leave a sandwich on the front porch. You get your hair done, and you come home and the dog growls and won't let you in the house. You put your bra on backwards and it fits better. You call the Missing Persons Bureau, they tell you to get lost. You call suicide prevention, they put you on hold. You call your answering service, nobody answers. You go to a psychiatrist, you say, nobody's paying attention to me. Next patient, please. You go to a fortune teller, she offers you a refund. You open a fortune cookie, there's a summons. And the bird sitting outside your window is a vulture. And that's my wife's advice for all of you. So keep laughing.
Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Bernie.
Thank you.
And bring joy and laughter into your life. It's the dose of medicine we all need. Thank you.